Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops Cold War in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Diamatti Burst Pistol, which is, in my opinion, a top tier weapon in Cold War, and it's my personal favorite secondary in this game. I use it on the majority of my classes, mostly because it has no drawbacks to being equipped with Akimbo, which makes it totally broken in Warzone. I actually did a whole video about how broken this is in Warzone, because the Akimbo Diamatti can one-shot anything in Cold War, which is, kind of annoying sometimes, but we have shotguns in that game, so it's normal. Or in Warzone, where you have 250 health, where gunfights are supposed to take longer, where you're not supposed to get one shot dropped too often, it can absolutely one-shot you. So it's probably going to be nerfed sometime soon in Warzone. It might actually get nerfed here in Black Ops Cold War, so I imagine that when Treyarch and Raven come back from their respective holiday breaks, that in the next patch or two, there's going to be some reworks on this gun, so hopefully the information stays accurate, but it's still currently my favorite secondary weapon. I liked it enough to where I bought an anime skin for it. I got Anime Pack Violet, which gives me purple tracers and puts waifus on the gun. I actually had a lot of fun. I just put it out on Twitter that this one also comes with Akimbo, which is hilarious. And if you want to pick it up, be sure to use creator code DRIFTOR, which has to be in all capital letters, and the O is a number pad 0. That does make this video sponsored by Activision, but don't overthink that one too much. When I found out that you could buy the weapon with waifus and with Akimbo, I promoted it on Twitter, and I just got lambasted for being a shill, which I found to be utterly hilarious. But let's move on to the actual stats of this weapon. The Diamatti bullet velocity is 300 meters per second, which is slow, but to be fair, it's still better than most SMGs. Most of the SMGs in this game have bullet velocity of about 200 to 250 meters per second, so similar to other pistols. This one's a little bit faster and a little bit faster than most SMGs, so not so bad, but it's not going to be assault rifle good. The maximum damage range on the Diamatti is 25 meters, which is very impressive. That's actually longer than the 1911 and roughly double submachine gun ranges, so you don't have that much damage drop off with the pistol. The Diamatti's base damage per shot is 30 up close, and if you put the task force barrel on it, it's going to go up to 34 damage up close, and we're not even going to fool with long ranges because, as you'll see, the weapon is incredibly hard to use at long ranges. So what that means is that it'll be 5 to 6 shots to kill with body shots and 4 shots to kill with headshots. That means that a single Diamatti shouldn't kill anybody in one burst in Cold War, and that's generally been my experience. I almost always have to two-burst people unless they're injured, but Call of Duty is a funny game, and sometimes it does unpredictable things, and at least in Warzone, sometimes the single Diamatti one-bursts me into the ground with headshots, which is kind of terrifying. The Task Force barrel does indeed increase your damage, but it isn't enough to change your shots to kill, and since it isn't changing your shots to kill, I wouldn't recommend it. I think you'd be better off using a barrel to increase either your range or your bullet velocity or something like that. As you'll see in my case later, I just went with a range increase in case I happen to be going for long shots for whatever reason. Let's talk about the rate of fire, which is kind of nutty on this weapon. The Diamatti's rate of fire is 1,111 rounds per minute, or about 1,100 rounds per minute, which is ridiculously fast. That is one of the fastest firing things in all of Black Ops Cold War or Warzone. That is a bullet hose, though it does have a burst delay of 216 milliseconds, which isn't exactly snappy. A little bit of a serious burst delay to deal with there. So when it comes to your minimum body shot time to kill, it's a colossal 532 milliseconds, or about 216 milliseconds worth of time for the bullets to shoot. And then, since you can't one burst people, you have to add a whole 216 millisecond burst delay in there as well. And while that might seem really slow, it is really slow actually. If you compare to other like raw time to kill values, that's very slow. And I was going to say, while it looks bad, the ease of use will definitely make up for it. This is like a theoretical time to kill. A lot of times with the other weapons, that's assuming that you're not missing any shots and you get headshots and you hit upper chest only and blah, 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 blah. This one just pumps out shot after shot after shot. It's very easy to recover if you've missed a shot or two. So the overall ease of use of just spamming out lead like that will make up to it, and it'll feel like it kills faster than it really does. But if we want to talk about killing fast, we should probably talk about Akimbo, because to the best of my ability to tell, there are no downsides whatsoever to running Akimbo. Call of Duty games like to take Akimbo weapons and make them deal a little bit less damage or shoot a little bit slower, or the hip fire gets a little bit worse or something like that. But to the best of my ability to tell, all of the important stats are unchanged. What that means is that with double damage, you can one burst anyone or anything in any mode. That's hardcore one burst, that's multiplayer one burst, that's multiplayer a guy with armor with one burst, that's Warzone one burst, And by one burst, I mean you pull both triggers and both weapons fire 2 separate bursts for 6 total bullets that you pump into them, but it's still effectively one trigger pull that activates almost instantly, so I prefer to think of it as one burst. It deletes anything. It just utterly shreds through any type of defenses that anybody can put up. And interestingly, with Akimbo, the attachments that have aim down sights time or recoil downsides don't really matter at all. There's all these attachments in the game that's like, oh man, minus 25% ADS time, or minus a little bit of range, which isn't going to matter a whole lot Akimbo. Or some of the barrels will be like minus recoil control here and there, but if you don't have to aim down sights, you don't have recoil control to deal with, so there's a lot of attachments that effectively become pure bonus when you make them Akimbo. I've been talking about Akimbo a lot, and that's because I just prefer Akimbo Diamattis over shotguns in this game. Believe it or not, I find them a little bit more consistent, a little bit easier to aim with or to use, or I find that my follow-up shots are a lot easier to pull out instead of just kind of waiting on the pump shotgun if I missed or something like that. The recoil, if you're going to be running a single Diamatti, is very high and somewhat difficult to use outside of close quarters combat. Like, if you're using it up close, you won't notice, but you start trying to shoot people at long ranges and you're going to kind of see how dumpy of a gun this can be. Even though its damage range is 25 meters and it might have pretty good damage range, I just don't really like using it that way. I find that it's very much so a close quarters combat style weapon. I really can't hit anything at medium range with this pistol. I just start missing the broadside of a barn. It's embarrassing. So up close or bust for me. The Diamatti handling stats are similar to that of other pistols, with an aim down sights time of 225 milliseconds, sprint out time of 200 milliseconds, which makes this pistol a little bit faster handling than the 1911, but not much. I don't know exactly why. You would think a bigger, heavier pistol like this would handle slower, but it doesn't. It outperforms the 1911 by a frame or two. One thing it doesn't, and does have unique amongst pistols, is a wider hip fire than other pistols, and I think that this was supposed to be the balance for the Akimbo. The SMGs in this game hipfire at 7 milliradians, or 7 units of width is an easy way to think about it. The Diamatti is the same as SMGs at 7, but then the other pistols are only 6.5, so they're not like crazy tighter or crazy different, but this one does have a slightly wider hipfire time. Base reload is 1.7 seconds, which is the fastest in the class. I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot though, because you have a whole lot of bullets, a lot more than you usually need to kill people. So the reload time isn't a big concern for me, mostly because I'm going to be running big mags. Big magazines are your friends if you want to spray with Akimbos. I just love having, it's really nice to be able to just pop out these Akimbos and dump a whole bunch of lead down range and look down and I still have 20 or maybe 15 shots left over or something. So I can just put them away without even bothering having to reload them because the big mags are so nice. And if you're running big mags, then you can get multi-kills and chain kills and fun stuff like that with the Diamattis. So when it comes to my opinion on these weapons, the single Diamatti is not bad, but it's not really the best performing backup weapon. The Diamatti is easy to use. It puts out a lot of damage all at once. It feels satisfying. It can make people very weak. I think it's actually excellent for finishing people off that have already been weakened. But if you have to pull out a pistol like this, unfortunately it can't kill in one burst, so you have to wait for the second one. Against a very good player, that's not going to work well. And while the range component of it is excellent, the recoil isn't going to allow you to use that very effectively at long ranges in most cases. So I find that the 1911 and even the Magnum sometimes outclass the single Diamatti. However, the Akimbo Diamatti is a close quarters shredding machine, and I absolutely love it. It just tears through people right and left, just like these anime waifus tear through my heart while I try to collect all their memorabilia. It's just my personal favorite backup weapon, and I'd recommend it to anyone. I like it better than shotguns. And one interesting thing is that since it has a good range component, if you prone out with this so that your hip fire gets as tight as possible, you can kind of surprise people. You're not allowed to move and like be mobile and jump around corners and stuff like you'd probably think with Akimbos, but if you know you're about to get rushed, you can prone out and dump really powerful bullets downstream in a very tight hip fire spread that retain their damage over range, which is why I'm going to be recommending one unique attachment later. And my best advice for you on how to use it is just treat it like a shotgun. Just treat it like a spaz alternative, get in people's faces and spray, and you will be just fine. So this is the Akimbo Diamatti class that I've been using for the majority of the video. I'm actually using most of the attachments that come with Anime Pack Violet, even with the waifu on the gun there. And let's start off with attachment number 1. I'm going to be using the sound suppressor. The sound suppressor keeps me off the radar and has the least overall penalties to deal with, so I think that one is the way to go. I'm going to be using the 6.5-inch takedown barrel instead of the Task Force barrel. I don't like the fact that the Task Force barrel messes with my ammo pool. In a lot of cases, I don't have a lot of spare ammunition for this gun, so I don't like losing those mags. This one gives me 60% effective range, which may not be the most needed thing, but sometimes it is hilarious when you akimbo people at long ranges proned out like we discussed earlier. The SWAT 5mm laser is my friend. It tightens up the hipfire accuracy tremendously with only an aim down sight time penalty that doesn't matter when you're akimbo. And I'm going to be running the Salvo 30 round fast mags, which give me a ton of magazine capacity, just more than anything I could ever use or deal with. It just kills multiple people. Fast reload, more in reserve, just everything about it's great. And the only downside is aim down sights time penalty, which I can't do anyway because I'm not aiming down sights. And then finally dual wield, which as you can see in the pros and cons just gives you 2 guns and no cons. So that's pretty much all you need to do to get to spamming people to death. I hope that you enjoyed this guide. I actually kind of hope that somebody at Treyarch or Raven decides to nerf these guns. As much as I enjoy them, I admit that they're a little bit cheesy and they could probably use a touch of the nerf hammer, especially in Warzone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.